pushing social justice. Very unusual.
Well, I think that there is a sort of misunderstanding of when we say what big business is, what big business is. So I think that there's a wide variety of owners of businesses and how they think about politics. Obviously, Bill Gates is a progressive guy. Warren Buffett's a progressive guy.
They are now.
I think Bill Gates has been for a while.
Progressive his whole life. Well, he's ruthless with Microsoft.
Well, so I think that there are a lot of people. Listen, I think that the vast majority. I think Mark Zuckerberg is ruthless with Facebook, and he's progressive. I think Jack Dorsey is as ruthless as the next guy when it comes to profit. I mean, he's still got to be answerable to his shareholders. So I think a lot of the progressivism is sort of a way to excuse your own involvement in the capitalist market.
Well, when Facebook took off, "Don't be evil." Like, that was their thing. Don't be evil. They decided to remove that.
Yeah, it was Google, right?
Oh, yeah. Did I say Facebook? I'm sorry, Google. Yeah, when Google did that. I meant Google. But it's funny when you think something, but you're saying another thing. When they did that, it's like, why would you ever take off "Don't be evil"? Like, keep that.
But here's my thing. Here's my thing. I think that if our tech companies were honest, they should take that stuff off. Like, stop pretending you're do-gooding. You're not do-gooding. You're providing a platform. And maybe the platform is the good, right? In a capitalist economy, the product that you provide is the good. I don't need additional good to come from your product, right? If you want to provide me a solid morning drink, right, I don't need your politics along with that. I just need the drink. Yeah. Well, if I want a social media company, I don't give two craps about what Mark Zuckerberg thinks about politics. Dude hasn't studied it. I don't care at all what Jack Dorsey, who vacations in Malaysia and gets bitten by 1 million mosquitoes while meditating, has to say about the nature of life. Like, why do I care about Jack Dorsey's political view? He has provided me a good. The good is this basic chat room where I'm consuming news. How about that would just be enough? But it's not enough for a lot of these folks. It's the kind of hoolie from Silicon Valley. We're going to pretend that we're here to do good. And it's not enough just to acknowledge that maybe the thing that you provided is the good. Like, Bill Gates has done more good with Microsoft than he has done with any of his charities. He's given a lot of money to charity. But Microsoft has provided legitimately hundreds of thousands of jobs and created enormously productive lines of business and made enormous profit for a lot of people. A lot of people have stock in Microsoft. As a basic factual thing, he has done more good doing that than giving tens of millions of dollars to various outside causes. So it feels like a lot of the progressivism in corporate halls in Silicon Valley is bifurcated mentally. It's like they're like dolphins, one side of the brain on at a time. Here's my capitalist side where I go out and make money and profit, and then here's my other side where I show people what a great person I am by proclaiming that I'm for Bernie Sanders while parking my money offshore to make sure that it's shielded from the tax man.
Yeah, well, that's a good assessment. What I'm saying is that the "don't be evil" thing, like, one of the things that I thought was, what if that was like a legal decision? Me being cynical, that they were pulled into some sort of an office and said, if we say "don't be evil," and you take someone off the platform, you're accusing them of evil. So maybe we should slow that down.
Maybe. I mean, again, this self-assessment of you are the moral police, I find really troubling. And it's so funny. I'm the supposed moralist, right?
Right.
I'm the religious guy. I'm the Orthodox Jew, right? I talk about social standards and how people should behave in their personal life. But when it comes to government, and when it comes to me imposing my views on you, I am way less of a top-down tyrant than any of the people in Silicon Valley. I am not here to tell you that you are not allowed to be on a platform because we disagree. It's one thing if you're threatening violence, which is an actual violation of law. But this crap where people like me, because I believe in a social fabric built on certain Judeo-Christian values, but I'm not forcing you to be part of that, and I don't think the government should compel you to be a part of that, or I'm the tyrant, but the person who sits at the top of Twitter or Facebook who is saying that they get to police what you see, and they're going to nudge you in the right direction without your consent, without them even telling them what you're doing, right? They're going to push you a little bit because they know better than you, and they can sort of massage you into better views if we control your channels of information. This is something the Obama administration was very fond of. There's a scholar named Cass Sunstein, who's a legal scholar. He wrote a book called Nudge, very famous. It was used as sort of a handbook during the Obama administration. And the idea was, well, if we can just use non-forcible means to sort of nudge people in a particular direction without them even knowing they're being nudged, then shouldn't we do that? And I think, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't, because transparency is the only way I can tell what kind of bullshit you're trying to sell me.
Well, not just that, like, you're closing down even conversation. If as soon as you're trying to silence this other voice, if you believe one thing, another person believes a different thing, you should probably talk about it. And the way that I know for sure there's something wrong with your argument is if what you're trying to do is you're sneakily trying to silence these voices. And again, as long as we're not talking about threats of violence, as long as we're not talking about harassment or doxing,
Right.
we're just talking about conversation. We're just talking about people with differing points of view. If you want to silence differing points of view, I have to wonder about your intent. I have to wonder about whether you're going into this conversation with good faith. I have to wonder whether you really objectively assessed whether or not your argument does hold up against scrutiny.
Yes.
This is also part of the problem. When you're in an echo chamber, you often don't formulate these arguments very well. But when you confront people about certain biased beliefs that they have, and you have an opposing belief, if they're part of a bubble, like sometimes they might not have even ever considered some of the things you have to say. I've seen that with some of your videos.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen all the time, and with sophisticated people. Right? I've spent my entire life, literally my entire life, in areas where everyone disagrees with me.
Yeah.
I grew up in LA. I went to Harvard Law School for 3 years. I was in Cambridge, where everyone disagreed with me, and then I came back to LA. So I have never spent more than a week at a time in a red state. Right?
Have you ever, have your conservative values moved in one way or another?
I mean, I would say that
at all?
my personal values probably haven't shifted very much, but my political values have shifted libertarian. I mean, so I used to be a proponent of criminalization of marijuana. I'm no longer. I've been in favor of
What changed
decriminalization.
that for you?
A couple of things. One was just a general sense the government sucks at everything. And the more I see the government try to crack down on things, the more prevalent it becomes. I mean, people were dealing pot on my 6th grade, 7th grade playground in public school. So obviously, like, that was
LA.
Yeah, exactly. and then
It's terrible.
just a general perception, not only the government sucks at everything, but
stranger
you gotta
passes into
own
Meridian
your own
without
actions, and also examining more
The
of the
murder of
evidence.
Captain Ursa and her vanguards, of course. Ambushed by Shadow Carter forces in Red Ridge
Yeah,
Pass.
again, there's you ruining your own life through use of drugs, and
How
there's
would you
drugs
know
that
his
legitimately
name?
ruin other people's lives. Right? There are drugs that remove your
I
ability
doubt
to
that
even
Aaron, the new
reason
captain
or
of the
think. I think there are
Vanguard,
only two
a
reasons
man
to
in
criminalize
grief,
drugs in
is going to
addiction.
waste...
One is
Aloy,
if there
you're
are drugs like, for
alive.
example, PCP that
I
legitimately
thought you were
violent,
dead.
and
Make
they
way,
were
make
big
way.
acts of
All the way
violence
to
against
Meridian
people.
just to see me?
Then there's case. Or if you're talking about a drug
really?
where it legitimately robs you of your
So
capacity
you're
to
alive.
reason
This-
or heroin.
We need to
if you're
talk
able to
alone
actually crack down on it
Over
successfully,
there.
but even there, I'm not sure that
So
the
you
proper
approve.
government solution
Of
is
course I approve.
criminalization, because we've criminalized it.
now, as you
It's still
wish.
incredibly prevalent. So
I agree with you. I agree with you
Good.
on that. And I agree
Alone
with
as
you
you
in terms of drugs
And what did
being
you want to tell me?
extremely detrimental. And the other part is that there's comparable drugs that are legal. Like, and comparable drugs meaning not even really comparable drugs that are far more devastating, like alcohol. Like, you could just go to any grocery store and buy a jug of whiskey and kill yourself with it.
yeah.
It's not difficult.
And,
Just drink the
we
whole
have
thing
laws
and
on the
you're dead.
books already that prevent externalities.
Yeah.
If you drive high, it's the same as driving drunk.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that you need additional laws to do that. And also, I'm not opposed to zoning laws. Like, I don't think a pot shop should open up right next to my house. Right, they're residential zoning. That's fine.
Same with liquor stores, though.
Right. I don't want a liquor store right next to my house. This is correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I become libertarian in some ways on that sort of stuff. The same thing is true, by the way, when it comes to the issue of same-sex
Special to
marriage.
me.
So on a personal, moral level,
Special
I'm opposed
to
to same-sex
everyone.
marriage. I'm an Orthodox Jew,
No, I'm
and
supposed to.
I believe that a man and a woman were made for each other. When it comes to government involvement, I don't think that's anybody's business. I think a lot of things. I think adultery is bad,
But
too.
why
I
everyone
don't think the
else?
government ought to be involved in adultery.
Anyway.
I'm so strict, I don't think premarital sex is a good thing, right? I've been very vocal about this. I was a virgin until I was married. My wife was a virgin until she was married. I think that's a good
I've
thing.
never heard
So I think
such
the government has anything to do with any of those things? No, I don't. I don't think it's any of the government's business. It's consensual activity. There are no externalities. So
But-
what exactly is the government getting involved in? And when the government gets involved in stuff, then there are externalities. Right? Once the government
He's not
starts to cram down
He
its
went
vision
scra-
on people,
Are there
then
any-
you start to
House.
get
Here in
unintended
the-
externalities. So, for
I
example,
guess.
with the legalization, my view on marriage
Okay.
is that the government should get completely out of the business. I don't think the government should be involved in straight marriage. I don't think it should be involved in gay marriage. I think the government should be out.
I agree 100%.
And the reason that I say that is because, as a religious person, right, who believes in traditional marriage,
I don't.
I have two marriage certificates. I have one from the state that I don't give two craps about. It's buried somewhere in my garage. And then I have my religious marriage certificate, which meant, among other things, that I got to shut my wife, right? I mean, like, this was the one that mattered to me. And I think that's true for most religious people. The religious ceremony matters a lot more than the state saying a thing. And the state isn't incentivizing marriage. People aren't getting married because they're like, yeah, I need the tax break.
Right.
So that's a bunch of nonsense. And once the government decides what version of marriage it wants to push, that then comes into conflict with other values. So, for example, once the state of California decides that same-sex marriage is on legal par with heterosexual marriage, Now I'm worried about the externality of I have a religious day
Year
school,
after
or
year,
I have
why
my
does he
synagogue.
spare those
My
who
synagogue
enslaved and
is a religious
tortured and
institution. It doesn't
butchered?
approve of same-sex marriage.
Aaron.
Now is the government going to come in and tell my synagogue how it ought to act with regard to same-sex marriage? I don't think that's the government's business. So how about this? How about everybody gets to do basically what they want, associate with whom they want, and it's none of the government's business? This seems like a pretty good, happy medium.
I'm so glad you talked about the two things that I wanted to talk to you about that I'm sure we disagree with. Mm-hmm. One of them being marijuana, and the other one being gay people marrying each other. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the marijuana one. Do you think marijuana ruins people's lives? Is that one of your contentions?
I think that it can, and I think in the same way.
Have you ever had any experience with marijuana?
No, I'm just talking about the statistical overuse of marijuana among teenagers does have detrimental brain effects that have some long-term after effects.
It's pretty proven, and that's one of the things that I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to cover that when you were in the middle of a rant when we were joking around about 6th and 7th graders selling pot. Don't smoke pot when you're young. You really shouldn't. It's not good for the development of your brain. Same thing with drinking. You know, I didn't smoke a lot of pot when I was a kid. I did it a handful of times until I was 30 years old. But I did drink a bunch of times when I was young in high school. And it's terrible for brain development.
Right. Especially
before you're 25 and your frontal cortex hasn't even fully formed. Your frontal lobe is like this. It's a developing thing. And there was an article recently that I posted from BBC that was saying that you probably shouldn't be considered an adult until you're 30.
Right. They're saying brain development doesn't even stop until you're 26 or 28. This is why when people are saying, like, let's lower the voting age to 16, I'm like, what the
fuck are you talking about?
In the world?
When I was 16, I was a chimp. You know, I mean, really, I was a chimp in a high school. Now, what the problem that I have with many people's perceptions on marijuana is that it's based on ignorance, meaning no personal experience with it. You know, and
listen, I'll admit I have no personal experience with marijuana, so
I know you don't.
I'm not speaking.
Probably should get high. That's what I'm trying to say.
Man, I've seen the effects on stock prices when people get high in the studio.
Oh, they jump up, man. They drop down for a little when a bunch of chickens jump off the boat, then they come right back up. The marijuana thing is, in my opinion, it's another one of those things where people have this categorized box that they like to put marijuana users in. Like, this is the category: lazy, stoner, stupid, delusional.
It's too widespread for that. I mean, there are people I know who are doctors who use marijuana. So,
well, the jiu-jitsu community is a big one. There's a giant percentage of the jiu-jitsu community that does jiu-jitsu high. They have competition.
Sounds like more of a party.
It's not. And I'm telling you, because it's not what people think it is. If you've never smoked marijuana, this is going to be a very difficult thing to grasp. But marijuana enhances jiu-jitsu because it eliminates the rest of the world. When you're rolling, which rolling is, like, say, if you and Jamie were going to have a sparring match, that would be rolling. Like, you'd slap hands, and then you'd go, and you're trying to choke him, and he's trying to get you in an arm bar, and you're going after it. When you do that on marijuana, it's like you don't think of anything else other than those movements, and it becomes like this very intense meditation in violence. Like, it's not violent in terms of, most of the time you don't really even get hurt. Mm-hmm. It's like you get to the point, like, one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is you can grab a hold of someone and choke them to the point where they're going to go to sleep, but you would kill them if you kept going. And they tap, and then you're friends again. And everybody's cool. And you try to do it to me, and I try to do it to you. And you really can do it reasonably hard without people getting hurt. And it happens every day all throughout the world. And a lot of these people are high. And they're doing this jiu-jitsu practice in this almost like trends. It's like, it's a transcendent state.
If you can function when you're using marijuana, I don't care.
But you can. This is what I'm saying. And perceptions are off.
So, I mean, I would assume there's a small subset of the population for whom that's not true, right? Who are overusing marijuana.
Yes.
And
that's probably the majority, in fact.
Okay, so then, but again,
that's not a case the same way with food.
I agree. So I don't think there's anything we disagree about here, because I'm not talking about criminalizing marijuana use. Right. I think that we should honestly discuss the evidence that for a subset of the population, there is some evidence that marijuana is addicting, but it's a subset. It's not everybody who's on marijuana. The vast majority of people on marijuana are not addicted to marijuana. I think in the same way, alcohol. I mean, it's true of alcohol as well.
There's people that are going to be addicted to almost anything, and I think there's There's absolutely people that are addicted to sugar. There's for sure people that are addicted to nicotine and alcohol and all these things that we let people have.
The material addictiveness of marijuana is not comparable to opioids, though, for example.
It's not even comparable to alcohol or nicotine. It seems to be very rare when people become physically addicted to it. Extremely rare. And what's common, though, is abuse. And it's common in everything that human beings consume. Abuse is common, as we said, with food. It's certainly common with alcohol. It's certainly common with pills.
But this is why, I really believe that the way to solve some of these problems is a social fabric problem. Like, it's a parenting problem, it's a social fabric problem, it's a personal choice problem.
Yes.
That's why virtually every solution I suggest is so funny. I'm constantly, conservatives like me who are libertarian leaning are constantly accused of being non-compassionate. No, it's just our compassionate solutions don't involve the use of government.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to encourage people to make better decisions with their lives. And if you choose not to do that, it's a free country.
Well, coming from a religious background, you have this community that
Hello, this is Andreas. I'm giving Shelly a call back. Good. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. Alright.